in the city of Clearwater. Before we begin the planning committee meeting, we have a staff public hearing on proposed fare adjustments. Debbie Lass, CFO, will now read the staff statement. Debbie?
Thank you so much, Chair. And since I see that we have, before I read the staff statement, we've got some public speakers and guests who I've met before, doing some mock interviews about a week ago for the folks over at the Lighthouse. What I'd like to do with your permission is I'll read the staff statement, and then Bonnie Epstein and I will do our presentation, because it may just answer some questions before I have the public speak, and then of course the board can weigh in before we close the public hearing. All right. Well, what I'm going to do is read the staff statement. This public hearing has been scheduled so that the general public may be given the opportunity to comment on PSTA's proposed fare adjustments. Individuals wishing to make a presentation today are required to complete a yellow public hearing speaker card. This card can be given to staff either at the start of the hearing or during the hearing. Speakers will be recognized in the order in which the comment cards are received. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual speaker unless additional time is granted. A group can designate a spokesperson by completing the appropriate form and presenting it to staff. The spokesperson can then speak on behalf of the group, addressing staff for 3 minutes for each member of the group present in the audience who waives his or her right to speak, up to a maximum of 10 minutes. Presentations will be limited to only the subject for which the public hearing is being held. The public hearing will not be closed until all individuals so desiring have an opportunity to make a presentation. Please raise your hand if you require a public hearing speaker card, and one will be provided by staff. Okay. A paid advertising concerning this public hearing appeared in the Tampa Bay Times on Sunday, July 7th. Notices were posted at PSTA Administrative Headquarters, Park Street Terminal, Grand Central Station, Williams Park, Pinellas Park Transit Center, on all PSTA buses on Tuesday, July 9th, and on PSTA's website on Tuesday, July 9th. The announcement was posted in social media on July 11th. To date, we haven't received comments, but there is a handout that has been given to each of the board members here today. So I will get us started. So one of the areas that we've concentrated on based on board input from the board workshops is revenue. Now, our second largest revenue source is grant funding. And we have found an innovative way to increase our revenues while having minimal impact to our riders and with taking better use of the grant funds that we do receive. Another area that's very important is to contain costs to be able to have a balanced budget. As you know, there's one key area that we've talked about where the costs have risen extremely fast, and that is in the area of paratransit, specifically in MOD, which is a wonderful program that PSTA has provided. Matter of fact, PSTA was one of the first in the country to offer mobility on demand, or MOD. Matter of fact, we may be, I know we're the largest in Florida, but I believe we've been so successful we may be one of the largest, if not the largest, in the country for this very unique program. So we feel it's very important to have this service, and we want to be able to afford to keep it. As a result, I'm going to be asking Bonnie to talk about some guide rails to help contain some of the costs so that we can continue this very valued program. So the adjustments that you see on this slide are two-part. One is relating to putting a fare cap on our fixed route system, and the other is taking a look at the mobility guide rails. In order for us to do the fare capping, we've had a fare equity analysis conducted as required by FTA, and there's no negative impact on the community. So let's take a moment and talk about what is fare capping. So fare capping in our system is where we go ahead and we're now down to just the Flamingo system and cash. We've gotten rid of the old MagStripe cards at the beginning of the year. So what we do, and you've probably heard me say this before, but it's worth repeating, is we have a $5 day cap, which is not changing. And you get on the bus and you tap your $2.25, which is our base fare, which is not changing. You get on the next bus, you tap, it's $2.25. We're now at $4.50. I get on the next bus, I tap, it's 50 cents. I have now capped out for the day at $5. For the few people who actually get to $70 by doing this every day, and it's very few, we're going to recommend bringing that monthly cap up to $85. Where it gets us the money here at PSTA is through grant funding. And the other thing is, for the few people who get to the $85 cap, right now they get to their cap by day 14. It'll probably be around day 17 instead. But about 90+% of our riders are transportation disadvantaged riders. They pay $11 for their whole month. Now, who pays the rest of it? The rest of it is from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. The CTD provides money to the county every single year, and we get a good piece of that money to be able to use. The negative part of it is we have to give back unused money at the end of every June, the end of the state fiscal year. We have left money on the table. So when we were taking a look at how can we improve our revenues and really not impact the riders, we looked at the grant revenue. We said, well, if we go ahead and raise the money, or the fare cap, from 70 to 85, it is the state that will be paying that out of the grant funds they give us every single year, and I don't want to give any money back. So we'll be increasing our grant revenues on that. Transportation disadvantaged riders are still only paying $11. Nothing is changing for them. So no change in our base fare, no change in the $11, no additional request to the state for grant funding. I'm just going to use what I have and try to use it all and not give it back at the end of every June. The other piece that I think is important is we've lost some of our people who are on TD, who are veterans, who are now riding for free. So that was grant money I was getting in, and now that will also help to be covered. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Bonnie.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Good morning, everybody. As Debbie mentioned, I'd like to talk to you about putting in some guide rails for our Mobility on Demand program. We want to implement these guide rails to control expenses on the service. If you recall from my presentation that I did last month, total paratransit ridership has increased close to 50%. I'll repeat that again, close to 50% in total ridership from 2018 to 2024. MOD is a great service, and we really want to keep it, and we think that these guide rails will help us keep the service and have a minimal impact to the riders. The first guide rail is something that Commissioner Cox actually recommended, which is to have the Mobility on Demand copay equal that of PSA Access. So each trip on both services would be $4.50 per trip. The second guide rail is that customers would pay $2 per mile in addition to the copay after the first 15 miles of a trip. Currently, less than 7% of MOD rides are over 15 miles, and the average length of an MOD ride is between about 6 or 7 miles. The third guide rail is that after a customer takes 30 MOD trips in the month, customers would pay $4.50 plus $2 a mile for that 31st trip and beyond. Currently, right now, about 10% of riders take more than 30 trips in the month. At my presentation this past Saturday to the Pinellas Council of the Blind, this third guide rail is the one that I think riders might have had the most concerns about. Some riders are using the MOD service to get to work and home from work every day. So thinking about it, for the month or for the week, riders would need 10 trips per week for 5 days working each week to get there and back. With 4 weeks in the month, that would be 40 trips for the month needed to go to and from work every day. So we are looking into an option where instead of the 30 trips per month, we would have 40 trips per month for riders. I know that there's also some concerns about getting to work or appointments on time. And I'm happy to talk with any of the riders here or any riders that have questions about how to use the PSA Access service to get to worker appointments on time. For anyone that needs to get to an appointment or anything, say at like 9 a.m., we can set up with PSA Access an arrive-by trip where riders would get there set between 8:30 and 9 a.m. and then going home, they could use the pickup window on PSA Access. Just to reiterate, the guide rails that we've been talking about are only for the Mobility on Demand program. Customers can always use the PSA Access service. There are no plan changes for the PSA Access service. So in addition to the recommendations that we were talking about, we'll also need to approve a fair equity analysis for the Flamingo changes, and all of these changes that we've discussed would take place on October 1st of this year. Before I pass it back to the chair, I just wanted to say thank you to all the guests for coming. I've read over, I think, an earlier version of this document that everybody has. And I just want to say that I really agree with the sentiments that they list here. MOD is an awesome service. Ross and I, when we first started thinking about the MOD program years ago, there was no one was really doing on-demand. Like Debbie said, we were one of the first agencies. And I know Ross and I worked really hard, and we were so excited that we would change people's lives here. And I think, looking at this document, reading the testimonies, we really have, and that's something that we're so proud of, and it's so cool. The one thing that we're just worried about is as riders move over to MOD and trips are just increasing like we had not planned, it's just that we need to be able to afford the program, our access service, and all the other PSCA services that we provide. We just want to make sure that we can keep the program and that it doesn't grow too large that we're in trouble with our budget. I could probably continue on forever, but I'll pass it back to the chair.
All right, thank you. Now we'll have public comment. I've got 4 comment cards, and I'd like to call up Carly Davis.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Carly. Appreciate the public forum for us to come in and share our thoughts and opinions. So I am representing clients from the Lighthouse of Pinellas. If you're not familiar with Lighthouse of Pinellas, our whole mission is to enhance the independence and quality of life of individuals living with a visual impairment who live in Pinellas County. My specific job title is a Certified Orientation Mobility Specialist. I'm going to represent some of the adult clients, and particularly I want to highlight some of our vocational rehabilitation clients, which are the clients that we are training to get them to go back into the workforce and get jobs and provide to the economy in their community. So my problem with the proposal, what I am against, is the $2 surcharge after the 15 miles. There is a image of a map in your little packet there. Basically, it's a client from Tarpon Springs who needs to go down to the Don Cesar. There are great job opportunities along the beaches. This client, it goes in, they fold towels in their laundry, and it's an awesome opportunity for someone who is visual impairment, who doesn't maybe have the technical assistive technology training that they can find other jobs. So with this, it's just a breakdown of some math that I wanted to share of the concern I have. It's a 38-mile trip one way. You take out the first 15 miles, you have 23 miles that you're now going to charge $2 per mile, which comes up to $46. If you're gonna say this is a job and they have to do a round trip, well, that's now adding $92 to their trip. And what the big problem I have with is, yes, they could learn how to ride the bus to and from if someone else is having that same job, and if they're able to, it's only $5. So if we're comparing that difference to a sighted individual or even someone who's visually impaired that could still ride the bus successfully, they're paying a $5 round trip, as they shared about the Flamingo fare cap for 1 day. A client who does need to rely on MOD for a service is now adding an extra $87 onto their $7 trip for $350 for MOD. You can say that they can take PSTA access for 50 to and from work, and however, I will agree with that. But it limits opportunities for the clients who are working hourly, who their employer might ask them, hey, can you come in tomorrow, even though they weren't scheduled? It's their 8 o'clock at night. They don't have that opportunity scheduled PSTA access, which would probably make the decision of, nope, I'm not gonna come into work because it's not worth it with the price. So I really wanted to highlight that surge charge of the $2 additional, or past the 15 miles, and just kind of share how that really could limit our clients who are going back into the workforce. It could even limit the clients on where they're looking for jobs. And there's there's definitely job opportunities out there, but if there's certain clients that don't have the certain job skills, it can really limit their opportunities of where they might look for a job. So we do have a big county. We do love MOD services because just from the last few years of having this, we have seen so much more growth with our clients getting jobs and getting placed and not having to worry about the transportation piece of it. So just wanted to share those thoughts on that, break down just a little bit of math of what in reality a client might have to pay. So thank you very much. You will hear from more of my colleagues from the Lighthouse representing other populations within our visual impaired community. So thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Next card, Joanne.
Knew it. All right, I guess maybe I'll start out with a joke. I was told not to be aggressive, and my response to that was, oh, I won't be aggressive, I'm just gonna be passionate. Anyways, I do wanna say thank you to PSTA, two accounts. As I was at the Pinellas Council of the Blind meeting, I got to meet Bonnie and hear others, and I told Bonnie that my move down here to Florida has been awesome. A lot of it's been awesome because of PSTA, because I now have the freedom I never had in any other place that I've lived, where I can go to and from when I need to and not rely on other people who are not always reliable. The other thing is, I want to say thank you to PSTA, because I was at a board meeting where I spoke about when they were going to change the price of mod from $3.50 for 4 rides, then to 6 for the next 2, then to 10. They listened to me. They scrapped the $10 because I gave an example of spending over $50 for one day, where you spend that much for 1 week's worth of gas. I want to speak, the other thing I want to say real quick is, I am probably, and I hate to say this, the #1 person who uses mod more than anybody else. Okay? I will say I do use Access to go to work in the morning when I don't have a client first thing, and yes, I work at the Lighthouse of Pinellas. I am a teacher for the blind and visually impaired, and I also do a few other things. But when you look at this, okay, the example of the chart of the 1 week for work, that's me. The example of the personal, that is also me, okay? I use mod over 60 times while I'm at work, just work alone, okay? Or approximately 60 times, depending on the month. I cannot use Access to go to clients. My parents would not like me to be a half hour late because my ride came at the end of the 30-minute window. Nor do they want me sitting on their front stoop a half an hour before I meet when their kid's in school and they went to go pick them up. Who knows what their neighbor's gonna think of this weird person sitting on their stoop? Okay, so I cannot use Access for that. When I studied everything that I did, I looked at where I'm going to and can make changes and reduce my number. Unfortunately, it will be less than 10 times a month, but I am willing to try. Now, my personal, okay, that's also in there. Okay, I have medical needs. I have a mother with dementia or Alzheimer's and an ALS, and I have to go see her, okay? And whatever else, okay? There, depending on the month, I could do 60 to 90 trips, okay? What I do try to do is try to do some of them on my way home from work, okay? So if I need to go to the drugstore and pick up my medication, then I need to go to my mother because she had a crisis, okay? I try to do all those to limit my rides, okay? But it still adds up. instead of making the mod trip to and from an event on a Saturday, okay, I try to do it on the way home. So I am also trying to cut down. I come up with a few things that I thought, okay, that would help. Why not, for example, do, instead of $2, maybe $1 per extra mile over the 15. My next thing is, why not change 15 to 20? Because I just recently moved to Tarpon Springs, because it's a little less expensive to live there, I am now over the 15. Whereas when I lived in Palm Harbor, I was within the 15. Okay, that adds up quickly. Okay, when I have to use mod. The other thing is, so why not change to 15 to 20 miles? The other request is, instead of 30, why not? I know I heard Bonnie say 40. 40 is still not good enough. Why not 50 or 60? Okay, I know it costs money. I know you only get so much from that. I get it, but you know, people need to live. And then the other thing is, which I talked with my boss at work, is can we have a Lighthouse account and a personal? Or, you know, so I can have my personal, because if I use my Lighthouse and then exhaust it, then I can't go to the doctors. I can't go to get groceries. Oh, and by the way, for groceries, 90% of the time I use Instacart, so I don't have to waste even more mod rides. So I am looking for ways to not use mod as much. But unfortunately, you know, life goes on. If I want to keep my physical health, my mental health, if I need to go to a fitness center to work out, which I do on the way home from work, okay? That's saving one instead of doing on a Saturday where I need to and from, okay?
Joanne,
Anyways,
thank you. You're
you
over.
get the hint. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks. All right, Danielle?
How do I back up all that action? Good morning. I am Danielle Johnson with the Lighthouse. I am the supervisor over youth programs. And I am speaking on behalf of other staff that were unable to be here and our youth, primarily for the $2 and after the 15 miles and the 30-mile trips. So, is that okay if I read from this? Okay. So one of the instructors provided to me saying that this is the Pinellas County Schools Orientation and Mobility Instructor, that she has several students that she works with that utilize MOD to commute to and from different parents and working function, going to work and different things. And so her concern is the cap on the numbers for MOD and that they rely on this to keep them social. And I will say, on the social piece and the mental health piece, I have worked for Lighthouses for 14 years now. I was in different counties and now in Pinellas County. And the last 2 years is the first time I've ever had my teenage visually impaired students schedule meetups outside of the Lighthouse. And it's because they have the flexibility of MOD to use it to, hey, you want to go you want to go to the movie tonight? Do you want to do this? I've also, in the last 2 years, the first time that I've had one or more students having part-time jobs, and it's because of MOD. And to see them more socially engaged with each other and with their non-disabled peers has been a huge impact on their confidence and, you know, me as their instructor and supporting that independent living and moving on after high school. The Pinellas County Schools instructor says that many of the students have improved their social skills, fostered friendships because of the freedom for MOD. And considering these points, the MOD program fosters their independence and mobility needs for all reasons. That the PSTA access, there's been several issues with the student arriving, you know, more than one time, a student or client arriving too early, the place not being open, the client being left, or the student being left. And as a visually impaired or any kind of disabled need, in that situation, there's safety concerns. From an instructor at the Lighthouse, she says, MOD has made a positive impact on my life, placing me a bit more on an equal level with my non-disabled peers. I would hate to see this change for the rides per month. I've not only been able to arrive and leave my full-time job appropriately at clock in and clock out times, but I've also been able to pick up additional freelance work because Mobility on Demand has made transportation to these sites more efficient. Paratransit fares are already higher than typical bus fares with no provisions for flat rate use cards as the former Go card and other similar systems. Also, when one is waiting for access, it's often longer than one would wait for a typical fixed route. This is why MOD in its current form is the more equitable, efficient, appropriate solution.
Thank you, Danielle.
Oh, can
3
I?
minutes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, and Tiffany?
Hello.
No,
So I'm probably the number 2 person who uses MOD. Joanne took the number 1 spot, so I should probably take number 2. So my name's Tiffany Stafford. I'm an orientation and mobility instructor at the Lighthouse, and I'm also visually impaired. Today I'm speaking to you because I'm unable to drive due to legal blindness. And first, I want to thank you and tell you how grateful I am for Mobility on Demand. This program has changed my life for the better and enabled me to do my job independently. And my job, I'll explain a little bit to you, is an itinerant job. So I travel from client to client every day. So that's why I said I'm probably the number 2 person, because Joanne and I both travel using MOD. And so I've lived in Pinellas County my whole life and watched PSTA grow to where I have freedom and independence. So I've been here since before MOD was a thing. And I am very grateful and thankful. But I've noticed with clients of the Lighthouse of Pinellas, they use MOD to get every day to get to and from the Lighthouse. If they use PSTA access, they may be late or very early to their appointment. One client relies on coming to the Lighthouse twice a week. He's deaf and blind, and he's almost always late to his appointment and when using PSTA access. And one driver even left him because he wasn't walking fast enough to the door. So if you decide to charge $2 a mile after 15 miles of travel, how will I be able to get from St. Pete to North Pinellas County to see clients? Because I travel the entire county. I can use access, but I don't have time in my day to wait 30 minutes to an hour for a ride that will most likely be late or very early. If I'm with a client, I can't just drop everything and say, oh, my ride's here and go. You know, we gotta have MOD for that. So furthermore, if you decide to cap MOD rides at 30 rides a month, then how am I supposed to get my errands done on the weekends or personal matters done at all? 30 rides a month will get me to and from work for 2 weeks. I could use PSTA access, but it's oftentimes unreliable, and I have clients relying on me to be on time. I don't start and end at the same place every day, and sometimes my schedule ebbs and flows. So MOD promotes independence, confidence, and freedom for people with disabilities. If you choose to limit the number of rides per month and the number of miles per ride, then you're choosing to limit the independence, freedom, and confidence of people with disabilities across Pinellas County. If you want to use us to use access instead of MOD, then action must be taken for access to be more reliable and punctual. I don't know if this is more drivers or what the solution is, but the mental and physical health of people with disabilities is too important for you to limit our rides. Thank you.
thank you, Tiffany. Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn the public comment.
We can close the public comment, and we have, as far as part of the planning committee, an action item, but may I suggest, given the recommendations from the public, that we take an opportunity to take a look at those recommendations,
Yeah.
come back for action at the board meeting rather than a planning committee.
Okay, no recommendation from planning committee, just go to the board meeting?
That would be my suggestion, and I leave it up to the committee.
Could I ask something? I would find of interest in coming up to how we decide this. Maybe you've answered it and I've missed it. But how many individuals currently use MOD? And then what are we looking at proposed revenue based on the projected revenue based on the proposed changes and the current revenue? I mean, that's kind of where I come down on things like this, the total dollars. I mean, I know it's very onerous to people to look at $2 a mile, but if we're talking negligible amounts of money for us, that's what I'm kind of getting at. Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer how many customers are using MOD. We have about 2,500 riders on the MOD service every month. I don't know if you want.
2,500 different people.
Yes, individual riders.
That's what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. Unique individual users.
Yes, yeah, it's about, maybe 2,400
Okay.
unique riders on MOD.
Taking about 30,000 rides.
A month.
Okay.
30,000, yeah. They are all, they go through a screening process and an eligibility process. They have a disability of some sort, and then they can ride either the Mobility on Demand program, that was just discussed, or the PSTA Access Service, which is not changing, which is just a straight $450 price.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you also asked what the impact to the total impact to PSTA is.
Correct.
The
Based on the current amount of money we're receiving from MOD specifically, and how much we would get based on the proposed changes, using
Right.
current ridership.
I think we're Bonnie's on some estimates of what we might expect. We think maybe around $1 million total
Okay.
for this. Although we're gonna go look at some other options like that the public spoke about that would reduce that number some. But that, in the grand scheme of things, what we're really talking about is trying to manage the explosive growth of the program by putting these. It's just as much about sort of managing the growth of it as far as like trying to generate revenue off of it. I mean, it's.
No, I understand that. That's what I'm trying to see. I don't want to see anybody lose their ability to be a functioning member of society because they're priced out of being able to get to their job. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
That's why, again, I want to see the numbers. We're talking a lot of money here at PSTA. Is $1 million to make this rapid change something we really want to do, or should we scale it down a little bit?
Yeah.
We've heard from 5 citizens that rely heavily on MOD to get to and from, and not to mention, they're with the lighthouse, they're out there helping other people cope with the same, lack of sight issues. So I just think it's something and I appreciate your position to take another look before we take it to a vote today.
Yeah, and I see this is a great program, yeah, for everybody, and I can see the explosive growth in it. And that's the part that, to me, it's like, okay, it's not just what we're talking about now, it's what it's gonna be. And so that, I think we have to take that into consideration as well, because it is growing fast. And, I can see why.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Yeah, so, did you have something to say?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to agree that, with everything that we've been talking about, it is a great service. We are concerned about the explosive growth. One thing that I don't think I mentioned last month with the 50% increase is that there was, during COVID, between 2018 and 2023, a 16% increase. The vast majority of the increase that we've seen in ridership is in this past year. It's unlike anything that we've seen. While we love the program and we want it to continue, working with Debbie with our budget for next year, I was scared with the numbers I was giving her with our estimates, and she was like, can you relook at these? What can we do?
I was very nice to Bonnie this year. I kept poking at it because we're up to about $16 million of
Yeah.
expense.
Yeah, It's
And, you know,
big.
so we'll be seeing some of that $1 million as savings and expense, because I wish everyone was like Joanne, who really takes a look at how they do their trips to help cut back. You know, and this, I think, will help to guide that in that direction, but, you know, it is a significant amount of savings to our budget
Sure.
by putting some guide rails in. More than willing to take a look at the recommendations that they've made today.
Well, I would, do we have pretty much everybody here recommend that we go ahead and bring it to the board? I think it'd make a good discussion to the board, especially with the input we had today.
Agreed.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the voice from beyond, I have a question, I had a question for Debbie.
Yes, Commissioner?
So, a question about the veterans, chance for the veterans. You mentioned that we're losing the $11 that they currently pay for their TD pass. So are we then able to bill the state for the full projected 85, or we lose that ability because there is no TD pass?
Correct. The way the TD program works through CTD is if there's an option that is, in our case, free, less expensive than what they're doing, we go with free, so we lose the full $70 today, $85 going forward. Does that answer it?
It does. I wonder if there's any other way to structure that where we don't lose that, but I'm not sure what that might be.
Yeah. We have looked, I have tried to come up with a similar way to what you're describing, I think, Commissioner Schulman, to try to figure out a way that we could, you know, if they are transportation disadvantaged, count them, even if they are a veteran as well. But the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged has regulations that specifically try to thwart attempts like that. You know, they want their money to be the last to be used, so I have not found a way yet. And veteran status is not in the state statute a qualification for, is not considered transportation disadvantage just by being a veteran, right?
So there's no way to set up like we reinstate the TD fare for the veterans and ask for a grant from the county to cover the $11, or some sort of arrangement like that.
And look outside the CTD, is what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have programs where other entities, and maybe it's something that was spoke about by one of the speakers here from Lighthouse, but is where another entity, like the county, does pay the $11, or, you know, the city of St. Petersburg pays the $11 for people. You know, we could do something, we could explore something like that, yeah. With Pinellas
Okay,
County.
well,
Yeah.
I was just saying, I appreciate the clarification. I wasn't sure based on the presentation whether we were just losing their 11 or losing the whole amount. So no, I understand. And we can explore other options another time. And I'm in favor of bringing this to the board for discussion.
Okay. All right, well, let's begin the planning committee meeting. And I'd like to call this meeting to order, and let's go around the room, starting over here. Introduce yourself.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
Dave Albritton, City Clearwater.
Tom Reed, City of South Pasadena.
Okay, and I need a motion to allow Josh Schulman to say by Zoom. Do I have a,
So moved.
Second.
all right? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That motion passes. Okay, so we have public comment on this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I don't have any public.
nothing, okay. Any other members to speak? Okay, go on. Okay, so the fare adjustment recommendations, we're gonna go ahead and postpone that to the full board meeting
Right.
next month.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or next week.
Next, next week.
Yeah, I can.
Next
start-
week?
I'll start crunching numbers.
Yeah.
I'm working with Bonnie on all their suggestions they brought today.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. So now we'll go into the action items. Do I have a motion to approve the June 19th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion passes.
Aye.
All right, now, I'd like to revise the, let's see, agenda. First, we review the informational presentation about the service adjustments, Brad.
Yeah. I thought I would go ahead and give this informational presentation about the new services that are included in the proposed budget for fiscal year '25. A little bit more detail on all the different, there's lots of good stuff that we're recommending implementing in fiscal year '25 before your action item. As the planning committee, Debbie's gonna lead you through an action item to recommend the trim notice for fiscal year '25, which will be, that'll come back to the board next week. Like I said, we're very excited to present the fiscal year '25 budget after a lot of workshops that the board had, and hopefully folks on the board is seeing things that they suggested included in the budget. You're going to hear in a moment that we are recommending a slight reduction in our tax levy, but we can still afford these services, and I think we can even still afford at least some, like some of the mitigations that we were talking, just Bonnie was talking about with the folks from Lighthouse on the fares, and maybe drop that $1 million down a little bit. We're going to be enhancing the service on the 34th Street South in the Skyway Marina District in St. Petersburg. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about our contracted ferry services that we've got included in the budget. A new service to St. Pete Clearwater Airport to the beach that we're proposing. And then earlier this morning, the Finance Committee approved the new station in St. Petersburg, and we believe we'll be able to get funding from the city of St. Petersburg to run a little bit of extra Sunrunner service at night, which will be great. Why are we proposing all these new services or these specific services? Of course, the goal is obviously to increase ridership, which we want to do. We are also doing a community bus plan that should be coming to you later this fall, with recommendations on that. And the recommendations from our planners in general on transit is the way to increase ridership is to invest in your main corridors, your main routes on the main corridors of Pinellas County. And that's what we're doing with 34th Street is obviously, US 19 is our major corridor. That's where we're investing there. On the Sunrunner, providing more service at night, that's one of our highest ridership corridors as well. And then as the board talked about at the workshops about really focusing on our tourists. Tourists are causing a lot of traffic in our county, and can we provide alternatives for the tourists? The ferries do that. And then the new service to the airport that we're planning. So I'm making a worldwide announcement that what we're calling this new 34th Street South service is our Spark service. So we have the Sunrunner Bus Rapid Transit service. That is a full-blown bus rapid transit with stations and really high premium service. The idea behind that is that in the future, if we ever do another full BRT like the Sunrunner, it would be another runner. This is our brilliant marketing folks that come up with this. Other full premium BRTs would be different runners. I don't know what, besides the sun or moon or whatever, I don't know. Step down, we want to introduce another premium service. We want to introduce another premium level. It's not up to the Sunrunner level, but it will be premium. It will have run faster because it will have fewer stops. It will have real-time information at the bus stops, like the Sunrunner does. More premium amenities at the stops along 34th Street. And this will be ours, and it will operate with 100% electric buses only. And this will be called this will be our first of hopefully multiple Spark services from Eckerd College to Central Avenue in St. Petersburg to connect to the Sunrunner. So this will take students and residents from Skyway Marina District area up to the Sunrunner going east-west to the beach or to downtown St. Pete. That's the idea behind this service. We've met with Eckerd College. They're very, very positive about this. 7 days a week, 15-minute frequency, much better than the current service that is there now, and it will increase ridership. We have a $1 million FDOT grant over 3 years to help us support the start of this. Okay, switching gears now to the ferries. These are all included in the budget. First is the Clearwater Ferry. PSTA received a service development grant from FDOT to enhance the ferry service that Clearwater is already providing funding for. We just completed a procurement, or we're in the midst of doing a procurement. Al Burns, our procurement director, told me before he left that today is the deadline for getting bids on providing the Clearwater service. I know that the incumbent has turned in a proposal. That's all I know. This would be a service that would go from downtown Clearwater to Clearwater Beach on a regular schedule, and then also downtown Clearwater to Dunedin on a regular schedule. It would operate Thursday through Sunday, and then more service during spring break. Like I said, today was the due date for the RFP. We'll be evaluating that and bring that to a contract to the board in August. Again, we have an FDOT grant, and the city of Clearwater and Dunedin are going to provide the matching funds for that grant. I put a little other note on here, and Commissioner Albritton would maybe know more about this than I do, but the marina in Clearwater Beach is under construction for a year, and the parking there, if you go over to Clearwater Beach, there's the parking all there by the marina. That's going to be torn up, and all that's going to be renovated for a period of time. And then, so there probably will be some additional ferry service for workers at the marina and things like that to get from downtown, and they'll park in downtown Clearwater instead of right by the marina, and then get ferried over to their jobs. And that's separate. I mean, that would be separate from the regular service for tourists that we would launch. The cross-based ferry, which goes from downtown St. Petersburg to Tampa, right now on a seasonal basis in the wintertime, because the boats are up in Boston, is actually going to start running year-round starting this October 1st. Starting this October 1st, the service will run 12 months a year. That's under a contract that currently is being managed by Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County contacted PSTA, as recommended by their other funding partners, St. Petersburg and Tampa, about could PSTA take that contract over starting at the end of the current contract? Could we do another procurement and manage that contract? The reason that the cities and we might benefit from that arrangement is that if PSTA manages the contract, we can have our contractors submit data to us, to the federal government, and then that will generate additional capital grant dollars through a formula, $1 million a year more. That can go toward ferry improvements like docks. St. Petersburg wants a new dock down by the pier, but there in many years they will not have any capital needs, and then so that money would come to PSTA in terms of grant dollars, PSTA and HART. So that's the impetus behind this. That's a little bit down the road. Over the next fiscal year, of course, we would just be doing a procurement to hire a new company to operate that service, and then it would kick in on October 1st of 2025 when the current contract ends. The potential for service to St. Pete Clearwater Airport, to Clearwater Beach. We're very excited about providing this service. You know, I think PIE is also excited about having transit service for the first time, a regular service to their airport to the beach, which we understand is actually their second most highest destination of Allegiant air travelers. At least the surveys that the airport conducts says the number one destination for Allegiant travelers is St. Petersburg. I don't know what that exactly means, and the number two is Clearwater. So we're at least the number two market. The idea that we have right now is that we would contract this out so we could get the vehicles. We could get vans. We would start out with like a airport shuttle van kind of service. I've talked to some of our contractors that Bonnie works with on our mobility about maybe they could help us with this, TransDev or Bay Area Metro. A lot of these services have a reservation system where you can sign up, you can type in your flight information or your reserve the ride, and then we could provide the ride on a real-time basis to the airport to pick you up as an air traveler and take you right to the beach. And then you would type in your hotel and we would take you right to your hotel. And then when you want to come back, this is all my idea. You know how when you go to a hotel these days and you park your car, the valet says, text this number to get your car at the end of your time. We want to create a system like this for our riders of this service. Text this number to PSTA. It might be a very low-tech version text, and it'll go right to Bonnie's phone, and then she will type in the return ride. Text this number, and when we'll come pick you up at your hotel, go back to your airport. We're seeking, FDOT seems very amenable to providing funding for this as well. We do have funds in the proposed budget to launch this in 2025. And last but not least, again, the city of St. Petersburg is interested in providing extra service at night on the Sunrunner. This is, right now, the Sunrunner runs 15 minutes all day. Every 15 minutes, there's a Sunrunner bus, but it goes down to 30 minutes at 8 p.m. And from 8 p.m. to midnight, it is only 30 minutes. So what this would do, and we've gotten a lot of requests for this would extend the 15-minute frequency just on Friday and Saturday nights when the demand is high for people to go out to restaurants and things in downtown St. Petersburg or to the beach. At least my idea is that we would launch this with the opening of the new station in downtown St. Pete, which Abhishek is promising will be done by Christmas, he told the Finance Committee. I don't know, he said that. This, I think, will also generate a significant amount of ridership. So in summary, the FY25 budget certainly is much better than it was last year in terms of not having to cut service like we did last year. It actually has a significant amount of growth. We think this ties with the board's focuses on job creation and economic growth type services that we're doing. I think our private partners will really come in handy, especially for that airport express and the ferry. We're not going to own any ferry boats at PSA. I don't think we're going to be contracting with other folks to do that. And then, of course, maybe these are going to be. We're hopeful that these will be successful. Maybe they're not. And so the way we do that is by carefully monitoring their service, and then modifying them or maybe even ending them if they're unsuccessful. We always are open to that. So I'll take any questions on the services that you might have.
Any questions?
Good.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Sure.
All right, let's talk about fiscal year 25 millage rate trim notice.
Thank you, Brad. It's a lot of exciting information you just presented, including partnerships like with the city of St. Pete and others. So appreciate that, and we will go on to the proposed trim rate. So today, the action item is to determine what the millage rate will be that we transmit to the property appraiser, the maximum millage rate. That does not mean it'll be the final rate that we go to the public hearings on in September, as you well know. Staff is looking at making a recommendation of a .7342 millage rate. And how I came up with that is the number that would only require a majority vote of the board to pass. So it's up to the committee, but I do want to kind of walk through some things, including where we were last year compared to all the exciting things you just heard from this year. So looking back to where we were last year at this time, we were looking at route adjustments, we were looking at route reductions, we had public hearings. It was very challenging, and me personally, I felt that it was a little bit painful to go through all that. And we also took a look at all the non-personnel costs here at PSTA, and we held them as flat as possible. We met the challenge, and we moved forward, and we were able to create opportunities that come out of challenges. As you can see on here, we innovated. With Commissioner Scott, he made recommendations to use our services that we have today through Bonnie's group to run the 814 to keep that running. Commissioner Cox, you were very helpful in helping improve our efficiencies on MOD, our paratransit access, and we found ways to improve the customer experience overall. We created partnerships, a lot of new partnerships. You've been seeing from Devin Deal, who comes up to us at the Finance and/or Planning Committee meetings, a lot of route analysis that really helps on a data-driven basis to determine what we need to do. But we also took a look at the needs of the community as we look forward for fiscal 25. Now, you just heard from Brad the details of all these different items on here. And it's very important that this is included in the budget. We listened to what the board had to say, what the community wanted, and we were able to balance the budget. Now, property tax is our number one operating revenue. We talked a little bit earlier about grants being number two. So what I did is I took a look at property taxes, what they would be at the current rate of 0.75, just using that as a placeholder. And I took a look at our operating costs. These are not all of our operating costs because it doesn't include the finance team, the HR team, the marketing team, all the other teams that we have. But this is basically what it takes to run the operations as a general basis. So we're looking at 85 million versus 104. That $85 million, property tax gets us pretty far down the list. This list also shows to me why the other partnerships and grants are very important. But property tax, very important to PSTA, and it does really help us run our business. Property tax, while it's really big to us, is very small in proportion to the taxpayer. We took a dollar bill, thanks to Brad, and he's chopped it up for me, and PSTA is only 3.7% of that dollar bill. Now, if we were to go ahead and use the millage rate of the 0.7342, that would be a reduction back or a give back to the taxpayers of the county of about $1.8 million. So we have a balanced budget using the 0.7342. We've got the investments in the services you just heard about. This also allows us to continue to have the veterans ride for free. So today, the action item is, what do we present to the property appraiser? And staff, from a staff level, we're recommending approval from the 0.7500 down to the 0.7342. With that, I'll take any discussion or questions.
Any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Cox.
Yeah, so if we, were to vote for the .7342, what's the amount of our money saved there?
Well, it would be $1.8 million. Now, yeah, I mean, in the long run, there may be some.
$1.8 million lower revenue.
Lower.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be balanced for hopefully the next couple of years. There may be some long-term items, and I look at it in the long term from what we get from the property appraiser is what you anticipate the property values to go up by. And of course, as you know, it's coming down. So there may be some long-term impacts, but on the short term, we are fine at the .7342. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned at the beginning that this proposed rate, you just need to have a majority vote, not a supermajority.
Correct, not
What
the
would,
two-thirds.
be the supermajority, if you will?
Well, if we go above this, it'll be 2/3 of the board would have to vote that in. And again, this is just the maximum we can,
We can adjust it up
we can adjust
later.
it. Now, if we go with the .7342, that'll be the maximum we can have for this year.
Okay?
Yeah, in July, you set the max for the trim notice, and then you can go down from there.
Yeah,
With future
without
votes.
going up with a supermajority.
And then for the trim notice vote, it doesn't matter, you just need a majority for the trim notice. So that's eight of the 15 PSA members. And then the final vote, eight members to get the .7342. To stay at .75, that would take 10.
Okay. Josh, did you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, not really a question, more of a comment. You know, I would not be inclined to go with the .7342. I would like us to see it stay at the .75. One, because it is the maximum rate, so that gives us an opportunity to have that conversation. Two, we just heard from folks talking about our mobility on demand and the changes that we wanted to make there, and it seemed like there was also a sense of wanting to continue to provide those services and not necessarily increase costs. So, and besides all of that, we're capped at .75. So the ability for us to make up shortfalls in the future are minimal. So when we have an opportunity to put more money, even if it wound up just being for reserves, I believe it's prudent to do so. So I would keep it at the .75.
Yeah, I kind of agree. We had talked about this last year, and moving it down, and I was against that. Whenever you're moving it down, it's tough to bring it back up. I mean, we could leave it the way it is, and then later, before we could bring it down, I would probably be for that. Any other comments?
No, I'm inclined to do that.
Yeah, I think Josh summed it up perfectly. It was along the way I was thinking with the revenue balances between the mobility on demand and this. I think leaving it at .750 makes sense.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Do I make the motion?
I'll move approval to proceed with the .75 proposed tax levy rate.
I'll second
Okay, all in favor?
that. Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes it. Very good. Thank you, Debbie. All right, does any committee member have any other business to bring before the committee? All right, our next meeting is August 21st at 10:30 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. All right. I like the gavel.
Yeah,
Yes, nice.
That's good.
Yeah, I like we didn't have it for the finance
Yeah.
committee. How'd you manage to get
It
it?
just doesn't put up, it's not the same as the ring, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't wear my ring today.
Oh.
Don't tell your wife.
Yeah, oh, I get mad if my husband forgets to be like, oh, so you just
just going out and using that in the kitchen.
So, Commissioner Hall, we heard about Michael Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to, do you know if the plan is to hire a new city manager?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna go out to, we're not bringing anybody in-house, it's gonna be an RFQ. And then, hopefully we'll get